Surprising absolutely no one. We are learning more details in regards to the fallout of Sony and Disney Marvel Studios in regards to Spider-Man after the release of Spider-Man Far From Home. And wouldn't you know that both studios were fighting over who gets to keep John Watts? Man, this sounds like they went through a divorce, which technically they did. Ultimately, Marvel Studios wins the custody battle and keeps John Watts. So what exactly was Sony trying to do? Well, let's talk about that. You can't just always look at Sony and be like, wow, that studio is completely clueless. I mean, a lot of times you can because they seem to not have their finger on the pulse when it comes to many things, but at least with Spider-Man, they realized what they had. We've talked about it before. Sony was very much against casting Tom Holland. They were also against casting the other supporting actors. They were also against John Watts directing. They wanted somebody that was a big name. Same thing with what they wanted with Spider-Man. They were unsure of all these no-names because they were like, no, this is never going to succeed. Marvel Studios ultimately won out the battle for all of those choices, and I think it's quite clearly paid off. So when it came to that fallout, we learned some interesting details. Tom Holland was already pitching ideas and talking to Amy Pascal, and they were planning to what to do, well, after Disney lost Spider-Man. And we recently learned, thanks to multiple interviews and Tom Holland talking about it, that John Watts was also in the middle of this. Sony was pitching him multiple projects, one of them being the Kraven vs. Spider-Man film, something else to do with Spider-Man on his own, potentially even some things that connect to the Venomverse, Spider-Verse that they're doing. Ultimately, John Watts did not take this because, as we know, Marvel Studios ended up announcing that he would direct Fantastic Four. So it's interesting to learn that both studios were literally offering him the next big thing. And quite clearly, he chose Fantastic Four because, one, he already worked with Marvel Studios. Two, he's seen how Sony treats some of their directors and literally, says you can't do that no matter what. And you have to listen to them. They don't give you the creative freedom. And the third, and I think most important factor, and that's Marvel Studios going, look, we'll keep you. Even if we don't have Spider-Man, we want you to keep working with us. We have directors locked down for everything but Fantastic Four. And he probably said, okay, give me Fantastic Four if you want me to stay, or I'm going to go and make films for Sony. And Marvel Studios said yes. So, the more details we learn about this fallout, the more we learn about how both studios were just trying to literally pull an RKO out of nowhere on the other one and just secure something big that guarantees a victory right around the corner. And you have to assume that Marvel Studios had more funds and more goodwill over Sony to make this possible because, again, it's Disney and Marvel Studios, and it's their word versus Sony, who didn't even want you or any of your casting choices. So I think that was kind of a big factor in all of this that ultimately ended up giving John Watts Fantastic Four. And who knows what the future holds for him in Spider-Man, but certainly Sony will try something.